I was covering the crime beat in Milwaukee the summer of 1991. Hot nights. When the call came in about North 25th Street, I almost didn't go. People always ask what a monster looks like. He looked like your neighbor, quiet, polite. The kind of man who held the elevator door open and nodded when you passed him in the hall. That's what made it so hard to understand, once we finally knew. It was a summer night, humid and still, when police responded to a disturbance call on North 25th Street. A man, handcuffed, disoriented, had flagged down officers on the sidewalk. His name was Tracy Edwards. He had blood on his shirt and terror in his eyes, and he led the officers back to apartment 213. They knocked. The door opened, and the man who answered was calm. Completely, eerily calm. The kind of man you hold an elevator for without thinking twice. His name was Jeffrey Dahmer. He was 31 years old. He had lived in that apartment for 2 years. What the officers found inside that apartment, I won't dress it up, because the truth is more sobering than anything dramatic language could manufacture. There was a refrigerator. There was a blue barrel near the closet. There were 17 victims accounted for across a 13-year span, stretching back to 1978, when Dahmer was just 18 years old and still living in his parents' house in Bath Township, Ohio. What struck investigators, what struck me reading the case files years later, wasn't the horror of what he had done. It was how ordinary his life had appeared around it. A neighbor had even called police in May 1991, 2 months before the arrest, about a child she had seen wandering, confused and injured, in the alley. At trial, Dahmer pleaded guilty. He was convicted of 15 counts of murder. He told the court, in a flat, almost clinical voice, that he had wanted control, that he had been afraid of being alone, that at some point he had convinced himself that what he was doing was a kind of companionship. I think about the families of his victims often. I think about how many of them called police, filed missing persons reports, begged someone to look. He was murdered in prison in November 1994 by a fellow inmate. The apartment at 213 North 25th Street was demolished. The building is gone. But the question that lingers, the one I've never been able to fully answer, is this. How many times did someone almost stop him?